Hi everyone and welcome to another video. I'm Negar, and as we are halfway through the year, it is time to do, well, a combination of two tags. I saw usually a lot of people do the mid-year freakout tag, which I did last year, but I also saw Paolo from Troya Books do the mid-year check-in tag, and I really like that one as well, and they have a lot of overlapping questions. So what I did is I put the two tags together. And you can see in the description box below from which tag which question is, because I did reorder it a little bit. But I now have 17 questions in total, and a lot of books. So let's go. First question is, how many books have you read so far? According to Storygraph and according to my Excel sheet, those are 51 books. I have no feelings about that number, except that I am happy that it's above 50, because that would bring me to 100 in a year. That's a nice round number. But at the same time, I would have wished it to be 52 if I am around that mark, because then it's one a week, which is also a very nice number. But if it had been 20, I would have been happy. If it would have been 85, I would have been disappointed in myself for not picking up my other hobbies. So, no special feelings, except that I like my numbers to be significant, if that makes sense. Next question. What genre have you read most of so far? According to Storygraph, that is historical fiction. It's not a big surprise to me because I like historical fiction, and with Invisible Cities, historical fiction has been a great way to get to know a lot of countries, so not a big surprise there. Then we have the best book so far. I couldn't choose, and I don't have to choose, but one would be Exhalation by Ted Chiang. It's a short story collection that blew my mind several times. I liked how easy they were, but how weird also, how they made me think. I really like this one. And the other book is Desoriental by Negar Djavali, which I don't have with me because I borrowed it to my mother. I told her I wanted it back. But she said she was liking it, so at least I think I should be able to get it back in not too long. Because I already miss it, kind of. I'm gonna ask, is that weird, with some questions here. Anyway, best sequel so far. At the beginning of the year, I read the Deavabad trilogy by SA Chakraborty, and all of those books were solid, good books, so my best sequel of the year would have to be the second book from that one. That is let me check, The Kingdom of Copper. The names of the books are something with a brass door, The Brass City, The Kingdom of Copper, and The Empire of Gold. But as you can see, I have to really think about what the titles are. Anyway, like that sequel. Other books that I read series of, just the sequels weren't great, or I read a lot of first books of series, and I'm probably not going to continue with series, so this was an easy pick. Most disappointed read so far. That is one of the sequels of series that I used to like. So I was rereading Narnia at the beginning of the year with Pauline from Dancing Lawn. This is the 7th book. It's The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis, and it was so bad, so disappointing. I remember liking this one when I was young because at the end the children all go to a lot of the characters go to heaven and they meet all of their old friends, and I really like that. But the racism, the commentary on anything that is not white and anything that is not Christian is so bad that this was very, very disappointing, and it just kind of broke Narnia for me, which is sad. And the other surprise was The Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. I haven't talked about this one yet on my channel. I read it last month with my book club, and I wasn't expecting to. I haven't really ever been drawn to Octavia E. Butler, but I really like this one. But I will talk about it more in my wrap-up, which should be up next Tuesday, if everything goes to plan, which it usually doesn't. The next question is favorite new authors. I have quite a few. Although I do think that you have to have read at least 2, maybe 3 books of an author before they become a favorite, but let's say authors that I want to continue reading stuff of. One is Negar Djavali, so the author of Desoriental that I talked about in the beginning, and I have her second book that I found by chance at the library. I didn't even know she had a second book. That is how enthusiastic I am about possible favorite authors. But I'm excited to read this one. Another obviously would have to be Ted Chiang, and I have his other short story collection that I'm waiting for a perfect moment to read. I also started really liking Emma Donoghue, so she's the writer of Akin, and I have read Room also previously, and I really like how simple her style is. And the other one would be Natalie Haynes, the writer of A Thousand Ships. I just really like retellings, and I have her other book, Pandora's Jar, that I also got from the library, and I'm also excited to read. Let me reorder all my books before I continue talking. Now we have two questions about characters. The first is your new fictional crush. At the beginning of the year I read Bel Canto by Anne Pratchett that I don't own, but in that book there is a translator guy. He's the translator to a Japanese businessman. I can't remember the name of the translator, but he was cool, he was nice, he was smart. He was smart and nice. Those are good combinations. He came across as a little bit nerdy, or maybe that is just what I envisioned. If I imagine a guy that speaks a lot of languages, he's a nerd, and I kind of like that. So yeah, he would be the closest thing to a new fictional crush, but not enough for me to have remembered the name. So deal with that what you will. The next question is your new favorite character. One is the professor from The Housekeeper and the Professor from Yogo Ogawa. He is a man that, he's a math professor, first of all. Big points for that. He is super kind, and he has a problem with his memory. He only has a short-term memory of, I think, about 8 hours. But I loved his passion for his work, his kindness towards kids, and the way that he deals with the thing that he has to do with. So he's awesome. I really liked him. And I also liked from another book that I don't have, but I am thinking of buying, is Le Liseur du 6h27 by Jean-Paul Didier Laurent. The Liseur in that book is also a very kind man. He loves books, he's a nerd. I think he would be a little bit too fragile for me if I actually met him in real life, but the idea of this very sweet book nerd man, he just sounded awesome as well. And to balance off those two a little bit softer nerds, I also really like Nari from the Deavabad trilogy, because she is a strong woman, like we like them. Not overly strong. I mean, she has her flaws, and at times she was a little bit irritating, but yeah, I still really liked her. I liked her drive, and that she tried to help people with her healing powers, because Deavabad is a fantasy trilogy. Book that made you cry, one is The Housekeeper and the Professor, because of the sweetness. It's not crying because bad stuff happens, it's because of the sweetness and the allusion to difficult things. And the other one is another that I've already talked about, and that is also Le Liseur du 6h27 by Jean-Paul Didier Laurent. Also crying because of the sweetness of the characters. And the next question is what books make you happy, and that is also Le Liseur du 6h27, because the sweetness in that book is one that is and heartbreaking and just really makes you laugh. So yeah, maybe I should just accept that I want to buy it. It's a very short book, but it was so, yeah, no, it still kind of left an impact. And the other book that also made me happy, made me laugh, mostly is Redemption in Indigo by Karen Lord. That just has very funny passages. I talked about it in my Invisible Cities wrap-up for Barbados. There are these characters in that book that there are called Jombi, I think. There are magical characters, and some of them try to mess up the lives of humans, and they do that in very funny ways. That just made me laugh so much. Then we have the question, the most beautiful covers. One is Exhalation by Ted Chiang, and the other is The Mercies, that I keep showing this one for the cover, by Kieran Millward Hargrave. But putting these two next to one another, I think I have a thing for covers with dark blue with colory, beautifully shapes. Well, this one isn't really colory, but this one is goldy. But yeah, these two are kind of similar in a way. But yeah, beautiful. Now we have questions about new releases. Now, I'm not usually into new releases, so it was really hard to think about this. And what I did is that I just looked at my story graph with the books that I had marked as to read, and the ones that came out either in 2000 or in 2001 are the ones that I'm going to name now. One is Pandora's Jar by Natalie Haynes, as I said, that I got from the library and I'm excited to read. The other one is Let's Get Back to the Party by Zach Sahil. I don't know what it's about. I keep seeing it on Scribd also and then thinking, oh, I'm not that interested in it, and then I see what it's about and then I'm interested in it again. But I keep forgetting what it's about, so every time I have this discussion with myself again. Another book that I'm excited to read is The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. I don't think it has come out that long ago, but with reading Akin and really liking that, I think I should dip into this one as well. I expect it's going to be a short read, and it's one that I don't want to know anything about before I go into it. And another one is The Survivors by Jane Harper. I read The Dry by Jane Harper this year, and last year I read The Lost Man. I really like those. They are thrillery, mystery thrillery in Australia in the outback, and loved both of them so much that I got The Lost Man. The next question is, what is your most anticipated new release? As I said, no idea about new releases, but apparently I had 2 books that I have marked as one to read that haven't come out yet. I didn't even know they haven't come out yet. One is called The King of Rabbits by Carla Neblitz. No idea what it's about, but it's called The King of Rabbits. I have rabbitses. I like this. I think Simon from Savage Reads talked about this, and that's when I thought, okay, fine, this. And then I'll see whenever if it does turn out to be something I'm interested in. The other one is Savage Tongue by Azarine van der Vliet Olomi. I think it's Paula from Troy Books that talked about this one. Again, I don't really know what it's about, and that's fine with me. If she said it's good, if I write it down, it's fine. Next big priority. So I have my TBR for July that I suppose is a big priority. I can show you some of those books. Let me see. It's a big pile. The Shadow King is on there. That's my pick for Invisible Cities. Frau mit großen Augen from Anglis Mastreta is my German book for this year, at least for this half year, and I want to read this in the next 2 weeks because we're going on holiday in Germany. I want to read The Color Purple by Alice Walker this month, also because of Pride Month. Une histoire d'amour et de ténèbres by Amos Oz. In English, this is A Tale of Love and Darkness. This is my pick for Israel for Invisible Cities. And then we have this chunker, which is another priority for the summer. This is A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth. Yes, Paula, I got this. So I'm doing this as a buddy read with Jyotsna from Jyotsna's Bookscapades and Paula from Draw Your Books and Ash, that I just know as a friend from Jyotsna and still have to talk to that person. But this is a chunker that we are going to read over the summer. Those might be a lot of priorities. Yes, I know. There are more books that I would want to read. And that brings us to the next question, is books you need to read before the end of the year. So obviously all of the books that I now said are my July TBR. I'm also going to do a buddy read of Buried Giant, I think is the name, by Kazuo Ishiguro with Laura. So that's going to be a need to read. And it's good because I still want to read a Kazuo Ishiguro book by the end of the year, because I want to slowly go through his books. We have all of the books that I just showed you. We have this one that I really want to hear before the end of the year. It's a Dutch book by Hannah Barefoots. I also need to read Segu by Maryse Condé, and I'm going to read this one probably with Pauline from Dancing Lawn. I've been so excited to read this one since I heard about it last year, but I haven't started it, also because it's very big, but I really need to read this one soon. So we have to make plans about that, Pauline. This one I already talked about. Another one that I really, really need to read is this big chunker. So it's a non-fiction called Grote Verwachtingen by Geert Mak. It's a Dutch non-fiction. Geert Mak traveled through the whole of Europe in the 20 years before the turn of the millennium, and he wrote a book about that, and then he wrote a second book for the 20 years afterwards, and as he visits the whole of Europe, and he talks about changes, first of all, with the 20 years before that, and how people are thinking about the European Union and other things that people are occupied with. And I've been wanting to read this ever since I saw this man talk, I think now already 1.5 years ago, but I really need to read this one. I think it's going to be so good. I also really need to read this one, Guest House for the Young Widows Among the Women of ISIS, by Nazardine Moaven. Yes, I need to read this. I also really need to read Sing Unburied Sing by Desmond Moore that I got from Believe in Dancing Lawn, and I want to read as soon as possible, but I have 10 other books I want to read as soon as possible. I also need to read Bridget Jones' Diaries by Helen Fielding. I think this is going to be a wonderful, just a weekend thing. I need to read this soon, but my weekends are always occupied. I'll also need to read The Improbability of Love by Hannah Rothschild, because I got this from the library and I don't want to have to give it back before I've read it. I don't even know what it's about, but it's been on my TBR, my mental TBR, for so long that now I just clicked it as I want to read this, and I don't know why I did, because I have so many other things that I want to read next month. And the other thing, last one, that I need to read is The Corporate Tribe, because I've been reading this one since the beginning of the year and it's just ridiculous. So I need to read that one as well. Hey, what is this? Is this paint? This might be yogurt. I don't know if it's paint or yogurt on the back of my book. I think it's yogurt. Why is there yogurt on my book? I'm so sad about that. I'm so sorry. Let me see. I think there's one last question. Your bookish highlight of the year. One is definitely Invisible Cities. So if you don't know, Invisible Cities is a project where a bunch of hosts picks 2 to 3 countries each month, and I've been reading a book for every country, and I have also been making food for it. And I've just been loving the community. Sometimes there are periods when I'm in a little bit of a dip and I really don't see how those 3 books a month I can make those a priority. So first of all, I'm really happy that they switched to 2. That seems like a little bit more breathing room. I'm loving talking about other people with the books. I have a couple of buddy reads this month, The Shadow King and A Tale of Love and Darkness. So I'm happy that I'm buddy reading a little bit. Oh, damn, that makes me realize that I have, I think, 4 to 5 buddy reads planned in the next 2 months, but that is fine. So that has really been really good, and I keep talking about it also to other people. Oh, I'm doing this and it's so cool, and the food has been a great way to get us out of some, you know, COVID slumpiness of not doing anything new. And the other highlight that I have is meeting Paula from Draw Your Books. We met, I think it's months ago now. And that was just, it was so nice. It's so cool. We live close by each other and we could meet in the city that we both studied in. And I'm excited to do whatever it is we're going to do next, probably swimming. So yeah, that was also really good. And I have another meeting of someone also coming up when I'm on holiday in Germany, which is going to be really nice. So yeah, those are my bookish highlights. Also, I reached 200 subscribers, which I don't care about the numbers, but somehow I was also really bad. It's not a highlight, but I still wanted to take the opportunity to say this. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking. A lot of people have been doing this tag, specifically the check-in or the book freakout. If you haven't, this is an encouragement if you need it to do these tags, because, I don't know, they're a nice way to look a little bit at what you've done so far. If you don't have a channel and are not doing any of these taggy things, I would still love to hear what your favorite book of the year was and what your bookish highlight was, because let's think about happy things. Anyway, thank you for watching. Bye.
Ba-chum, ba-chum, chum.